We're obsessed with the Connie Fife Show. It's about a lifestyle shift to move up or out.
Hey, what's your jam? What's the one thing that really drives you? What makes you unstoppable?
It's about opening a new door to live your dream.
People give up way too early on their dreams.
It's about enjoying the journey. It's about keeping it real.
Damn, now the interviewee is interviewing the interviewer. I like this.
It's all about you.
I knew there was something else I wanted to do. Stop taking shit so seriously. Y'all can do this. Take an outrageous look at life and laugh.
This is the Connie Fife Show.
We love your voice. We love your jam. You need to be on radio.
And now your host, Connie Fife.
Hey everyone, it's Connie Fife, your unstoppable diva, and we are here this week with another exciting guest, Vicki Znavor. I've been practicing her name, make sure I got it right, but Vicki Znavor, and she is here with us today. She is a former corporate executive. I've sat in that seat myself as well. So I know we're going to have a lot to talk about today. But before I bring her on, I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming back every week. Our ratings continue to grow. You know, we're in top 20 for business entrepreneurial business management show. And I just get so excited every time I try to say that. It's a tongue twister. But we want to ensure that we are bringing you the guests that are helping you achieve your success and achieve your goals as a lifestyle entrepreneur. So with that, let's jump right into our conversation with today's guest. So Vicki, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much, Connie. It's great to be with you. I really appreciate the invitation.
So I was looking at your information, and like I just said, we do have something in common because I myself am a former CEO from corporate life, and 16 years ago is not by choice though. For me, it was, well, we merged, we realigned, you're done. So I was crushed because I thought I would have been in that for the rest of my life. So share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I would say my story isn't dramatically different from yours. Things come at us and we have to be prepared and all of that. But,
Right.
I have many common aspects of my life with you, Connie, in that, when I got out of high school, I was a great student, but I'm the youngest of a very large family, and my family didn't have the money to send me to college in the typical way.
Mm.
And I would have
Right.
it no other way, although at the time it was difficult. So I went to work, started out at a, entry level position, as most of us do. And, one thing I had was a lot of enthusiasm and I would say inherent intelligence, but it wasn't really refined or anything like that. So I basically went to school I'm so sorry about that. I basically went to a school for 15 years at night while I was raising my family. And
we really have something in common.
Okay, you too. You're another one, huh? So I'm just gonna unplug. Sorry about this. Just want to take this off so we don't get disturbed again. But I raised my kids, and I was going to school. One difference that we don't have is that I know you were a single mom for many years.
Yes.
I was blessed to have a husband who really did sort of dive in and do everything along with me. And that is such a blessing if you have that. But
yes.
Kept going to school.
I'll give credit to my ex-husband though. Because I will. He actually, today he's my best friend. He's one of my best friends.
Oh.
And of course, at the time we weren't, but when I went back to school, he was there for me because we ended up living one street apart.
Great.
And he was a fireman, so he worked 4 days and then he was 4 days off. So he would take our kids, whenever I had to go to school. So I have to give him credit for supporting me. Otherwise, I couldn't have been able to do it.
It takes a village for sure, and that's one more common thing we have is my husband's a fireman also. So. Oh! So
Do we know each other from a previous life?
I don't know. So, but so you know exactly how it is. Along the way, you continue working your way up, and I
Yes.
did. I started on the finance side of the organization, and then switched over to HR, and loved it, and kept feeling a little bit concerned that I wasn't able to say things the way the Harvard MBAs were saying it, the way the University
Okay.
of Chicago attorneys were saying it, but things like that. But as I got older and you continue to get rewarded for, getting things done, frankly,
Yes.
I started to think about, okay, my values are so important to me, and they would show up,
Yes.
but I didn't have the knowledge of what values really meant at the time. I just knew that if you crossed one of them, we were probably going to have a problem. And or I would, or
Boy,
I
do
would,
we have something that was
do we?
always getting me in trouble.
or I knew that if you crossed one of them, and I spent a lot of time at night tossing and
Mm,
turning, because my first lens with dealing with people really is that I have a deep empathy for other human beings. And it
mm.
came because of my story. My family, my parents were struggling with alcohol addiction when I was a kid. We always struggled with knowing where the next meal was. Well, not always, but oftentimes in my childhood, where
Right.
the next meal was coming from, lived paycheck to paycheck, home was lost to foreclosure, those kinds of things. So I learned really at a young age that people were going through tough times because I had gone through them myself. And,
Okay.
as you go through the workplace, so I did rise up to becoming a CHRO, Chief Human Resources Officer of a bank.
Nice.
I had,
Okay.
great positions at Sara Lee Corporation years ago as at a
Right.
vice president, which was 1% of the population at the time. And so I was able to do these great things, but it wasn't until later when I started really putting it all together, as we often do. And I've heard your great shows too, in that you talk a lot about this as well. You understand, okay, my story isn't something to be ashamed of. My story
Right.
made me who I am.
Right.
Yes, and the values that came from that story are so
Mm-hmm.
important. Those made me who I am. I learned as an executive, look across the table and see the person first as a human being, and then
Yes.
figure out who's going to do what and how are you going to get it done.
Right, exactly. I always say, what had, because I grew up with my grandmother and a lot of the same thing. I was riding my bicycle around the neighborhood, picking up odd jobs, cleaning houses or babysitting or something so I could pay the bills for the
Right.
family. And so that's what I did. And so I now looking back, I said I was in training for an entrepreneur before I even knew what entrepreneur meant. Because I
Yes.
was I was
You
doing it,
always won.
always in survival mode.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's funny that we do have that in common. But the one thing that I have found, and I interviewed almost 50, well, over 50 women a couple years back for one of my books, and talking about their challenges.
Mhm.
And it turns out not just women, but men as well, that again, what had happened that made us who we are. And also that's our gift.
It
I
is.
always I always go back and look at it as a gift. I mean, I worked for what I have. It took me 20 years to finish college. I was a CEO even before I finished college. It was
Good for
after I
you.
lost my job that I went back. I was like, okay, because they said now, the new CEO, we want somebody with a PhD. And I'm like, I don't need my bachelor's degree at this point. So I went back and finished it,
Mhm.
considered my PhD. But by this point, I thought, you know what? I know so much from the School of Hard Knocks
Yeah. Yeah.
that I think the bachelor's is good. And that's when I realized, okay, you know what? I'm going to pivot and go out on my own and start my own business. And like I said, that was almost 16 years ago.
Yeah. And look at how well you've
Yes.
done. Yeah.
And yes, never ever thought I would be in the position I am today, owning,
Mhm.
having multiple businesses.
Mhm.
So then, so what I'm hearing then for you, a lot of it, was your integrity and you weren't sleeping at night. So really what prompted you to make that shift to leave corporate?
Yeah, well, I would say, just as you said, sometimes some decisions come to us, but I would also say that in my case, it was, I always found joy, such joy in my work that, in
Mm,
my book, I say that my face hurts so much from smiling because I always felt like I was so blessed to be where I was. But then when, in the case of my situation, if you have an acquisition or something like that where leadership changes, you don't get to make decisions in the same way.
right,
And that's just how it goes. There's not anything bad there. It's just how it goes.
right.
Then you start to realize that it isn't exactly as rewarding as you wanted it to be or needed it to
Mm,
be. And then that sort of is a collision. I would say that I had moments in over the last, say, 4 years where one person, we were at a health fair at our company, and one person said to me, she was there to do like an intuitive reading, and I thought, well, I'll go. Who knows what that's all about? And
yeah.
she said to me, "You are depleted." And I thought to myself
Ooh,
for a second, I stood back and I thought, and I thought I wanted to cry, frankly, because I thought that's exactly how I feel, that I feel depleted. And so I would just say to anybody who's watching and listening is that you really know the signs. What do I need to do differently? What's
right.
not working for me anymore? And that's
Hmm.
what I did. I really said, I told myself, I thought, one, I reconciled that I'd been putting it out into the universe that this wasn't working for me. And the universe came back loud and clear with an answer. And that's how it happens for most of us.
It
Oprah talks,
does.
yeah, Oprah talks
Hmm.
about sometimes we hear the little pebbles in our head. It's like pebble up against the
Yes.
side of your head. And if you don't listen, you get a boulder.
Yeah. Sometimes you're like, okay, no, I can't listen over there. Not today. I
Right.
can't
Not
do
today. I'm
that.
too busy.
But right, I'm too busy. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But and it was like for me, I mean, initially, of course, I was crushed.
Mhm.
And I always joke that I sat around my pool that summer drinking a lot of margaritas, but it's the truth. I mean, 'cause I was like, what do I do now?
Mhm.
What happens now?
Mhm.
But the revelation came to me when I started getting calls from other executives that I knew and saying, you made the shift, because by year two, I was like, okay, because I did apply for other positions
Sure.
and I, you know, didn't get them. But I won't get upset now. Um, but they wanted to know what I did to make that shift, how I was making it work
Mhm.
to do that. And that was the one thing that came to me, because I started going to seminars after seminars after seminars, and people saying this is what you need to do, but I wasn't getting what I how to do it. And I have a cabinet full of books. I could put all these letters after my names of things that I earned. And I said, this is crazy, because I was getting calls from other executives saying, I want my plan B, but I don't know how
Mhm.
to do it, and nobody's showing us how to do it. And that's
Yeah.
what shifted for me, saying, okay, I need to show these people how to do it so they can really truly live a fulfilling life.
Yeah, and that's really what's so important is when
Yeah.
you are on purpose with whatever it is that you're doing, you feel
Yes.
it. Your face shows it. I'll go back to my face hurting so much that I
Right.
smiled all the time. It feels like that. And I love that face when I see it in
Mhm.
other people. So what you're doing is really helping people to do that. And that's really aligned with my purpose as well.
Yes. And you write about that in your book. So why don't you share
Yes.
with our listeners your book and where they can get a copy of
Sure. So the book is called Authenticity Reawakened, The Path to Owning Your Life Story and Fulfilling Your Purpose. And it looks like that.
it?
And it's available on Amazon. It's also available at Barnes and Noble. And so, I went right into writing the book. I do believe that the tools, the stories help the reader sort of walk through what are my pivotal life moments, those 5 to 7 moments in our life that created us, to who we are today.
Right.
What are our values, and then a purpose statement so that you have your purpose. And with those in hand, then you know what isn't for you. And then you also can
Mm,
start thinking about what is for you. And sometimes we just focus on, getting a job. I know you've talked about that too before, getting the
right.
job. And we don't want just to get a job. We want to get a job, a career with purpose, a life of
Oh, I love
purpose.
that. Yes, I
Yeah.
love that. So where
Mhm.
can they get a copy of that?
So all the tools are in my book, and again on
On
Amazon.com
Amazon.
or
Okay.
at Barnes and Noble as well.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So what are some of the next projects that you're working on?
Well, so I just started a coaching practice that felt like a natural next step for me. I'd been coaching executives for my entire career, basically, and I enjoyed doing that. So I've started to build a practice. I have some clients already, which is terrific. I just left my job at the end of March of 2020. So
Okay.
the book took about 7 months to write, but I have clients now with the coaching practice. I'm going to continue. I probably will write another book. I know you've got 7 books, I believe,
Yes,
written.
I
So
do.
that's amazing. What an accomplishment. I probably I've got 2 in me for sure. So I'll do
Okay.
that again. And then I've really enjoyed meeting people like you because I have a whole new appreciation for how hard it is to put together the programming that you're putting together. But I know it also helps you get to what your purpose is. So that's
Right.
a possibility.
Right, right. It is challenging. And that's the one thing too with people who are still working, the 9 to 5. And it is challenging. And
Yeah.
it's not for everybody because some people still need to have that paycheck. But last year, a lot of that has changed. And I commend you. I mean, you did this last year through COVID. So
Yeah.
that was an amazing feat in itself, just for that.
Mhm.
But it's hard work, and
Sure.
not sometimes, but you always and will always put in more hours. I know, there's that 4-hour work week that people talk about. No.
Yeah, I haven't discovered that one, but if you find that person who came up with that, have them on the show and help us all out figure it out. Because yeah, no, and I didn't have, and you didn't either when you were the CEO. I was working 70 hours a week on
Oh,
average,
yes.
for
Yes.
years and years and years. And now I will
Yes.
say I don't work 70 hours a week anymore. And if my dog wants to go for a walk, I know you're a dog person too. I take
Right.
my dog out for a walk and he's sitting by my feet. So a lot of really good things
Mm,
have happened that I'm
yes.
grateful for. But, again, people do have to have a paycheck. And so, it
Right.
depends on the stage of your life. And I do use
Right.
the word reawakened in my book because we learn and grow and learn and grow and all of that over our careers, and
Mhm.
who we are and what matters to us changes. But if you're stuck in a job, so to speak, my advice would be find out, after you do the work of knowing your values and what's important to you, how can you bring those to work? What are a few things that you can do to start talking more
Right.
authentically with your manager, with your coworkers? What organizations at work can you join? How can you say no in a great way? Those kinds of things, there are things you can do and still get the paycheck until, a different time in your life has arrived.
Well, Vicki, I have one more question, and I
Sure.
ask this of all of our guests. If you can complete the sentence, I am unstoppable because.
I don't give up.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh, no, I mean, because so many people do. And especially stepping into the entrepreneurial space.
Mhm.
You'll have, 100 people start today. Within a month, that 100 people might be down to 20.
Right.
2 years goes by and you have like 1% of those individuals still standing.
Right.
And that's the one thing that I always said. I mean, because I invested so much into it. I always
Right.
said I cannot afford to quit. And that was like my mantra. And I just kept on going. I cannot afford to quit.
That's
I put too much money into this. I mean, there's some nicer things that you could do, but that was always mine. So,
yeah.
Vicki, you've been a joy to be here. I
Yeah.
love chatting with you. You're
Same
always
here.
welcome back. I
Thank
want to
you.
thank you for being here. But if you just want to, one more time, let our listeners know where they can find you and also find a copy of your book.
Sure. So you can find me at vickiznavor.com. So that's VICKIZNAVOR.com. And all of my socials are linked there. I'm on all the socials. And then you can get the book at Amazon.com, Authenticity Reawakened, The Path to Owning Your Life Story and Fulfilling Your Purpose, or Barnes and Noble as well.
Fantastic. And Vicki, again, thank you for being here, and for everyone joining us here this week. Thank you for being here. And I hope that we were able to give you some, just even a nugget for today to help you find your purpose and where you want to go forward with your journey. So I'm Connie Fife. This is the Connie Fife Show, and we are unstoppable together. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey y'all, it's Connie Fife. Thank you for listening to the Connie Fife Show. Check back often. You don't want to miss any of the good stuff. If you like what you hear and would like to be a guest on the show, head over to theconniefifeshow.com to apply. While you're there, check out our amazing advertising opportunities that will put you right in front of your perfect client. I will see you over there. Do yourself a favor this week. Activate your power and be unstoppable together.